This is the soil of Florida, not Africa, not Europe, not no damn fantasy. This the mark of Moctezuma. We ain't never been no damn slaves. We was prisoners of war. And y'all still out here claiming that title like it's your birthright. You know where the word slave come from? Slavic, from over there, Slavonia. You from there? Nah, you from right here, from these lands. Moctezuma's blood, the sovereigns of Anahuac. So get it through your head, you royalty, not no damn slave. Of the true sovereigns of these lands. Y'all better get it right. Look at all that. All this land. That's ours. We've been here.
They built this on stolen land, tried to hide the roots, cover the soil with lies. But we still here. They call me a Moor, but I am not from across the Atlantic. I am of this land, Saturiona.
So tell me, where ICE gon' deport you when you from right here, huh? The clouds. Ain't no borders when this whole land your inheritance. So get it through your head, you royalty, not no damn slave. Y'all gon' get it one way or another. We ain't never been no damn slaves. We ain't going nowhere neither. This the mark of Moctezuma, of Anahuac, of the true sovereigns of these lands. Y'all better get it right.
Ain't no borders when this whole land your inheritance. They gon' deport you back to your own soil. Now let that marinate.
We are the unbroken memory, the feared royalty, living sovereigns of Temeri. We hold the keys to this land called America. We built the crystal cities they keep trying to erase. They don't tell you the Moors who civilized Europe came from the West, and some stayed behind. That's why their faces mirror ours. We, the kings, sailed east to civilize them, so they called us the Moors of Europe. But we were always the kings of America. This ain't just some coat of arms, listen. This is a stolen family tree from Temeri. They didn't invent royalty, they inherited ours. They parade stolen emblems. America's family tree is the blueprint they copied and claimed. We were the kings who were always here. They want you looking at Africa so you don't look right here, at your own land. So-called Indians were Moors. That's why the Creek Confederacy was so powerful. They were the original Moorish military, fighting to keep all these other groups out. They create these divisions, Moor versus indigenous, to keep us from consolidating. Don't let them cast stones and make you argue. We were already here. Think this history is new? Go look up the kings of Spain. Then go look up the kings of America. The same names, the same titles. It's all there. Just believe it. Go and look at the flags of old Europe. Then look at the banners of the Creek Confederacy. You'll see the same people, the same kings, just a different continent. They say it was us against them. But the Moorish War was us against us. We were fighting these tribes trying to create new people.
Moors are aboriginals. Come on, it's a trick. The real enemy wants you to fight over semantics so we don't look at the historical documents. We got the same mission. Temeri was a monarchy.
They turned you against the idea of imperialism, of monarchy, because the monarchy was here first, and they needed you to forget that our title of nobility is the real power. Don't y'all read the damn treaty, son? They made a whole treaty with the Moors in 1787, government to government. They knew we were the royalty, and they wanted our trade. All the fantasy stories about warring kingdoms, that's not a fairy tale. That's our old world. That's the ancient confederacy and the bloodline. You think the families fighting over the throne in Game of Thrones is just fantasy? That's the real story. Real story of what happened right here. On your land, Temeri, so-called America. I don't think Tolkien just made up Middle-earth. It's all a metaphor for the real war, and they buried the truth and sold it back to you as fiction. They told our own people that the Moors were the enemy, made brother turn against brother over a lie. We fought each other over stories they planted. Think about that. Listen up. The real Moorish law is about justice, truth, and lifting up our own people. It ain't about tearing each other down.
Quit arguing over semantics. Stop cherry-picking Moorish law if you're not gonna help uplift fallen humanity.
Y'all laughing that we was kings while they got our family crests everywhere. The joke's on you. We are still kings. It's in the DNA. You remember this? Art imitates life. Follow original black God bringing our history back to life. This also follow Spin City and Brother Red Pill. They're showing you how to take that fire, that vision, and make it real. Dropping the knowledge you need.
Join the movement. Bring your visions to life. Help us awaken the world. The power is within you. The time is now.
Salute, salute, salute. Grand rising. Peace and love to all the American Aborigines. Y'all already know the vibe. This your brother, Big Aboriginal Power. And y'all see, we back with another one when you thought it wasn't going to be no another one, man. Hey, man, let me say this right quick. Salute, man. Happy Grand Rising. This is the Wake and Bake Show, and I got some heat for y'all today. I need y'all to buckle up, man. We're going to be exposing one of the biggest cover-ups in archaeological history. All right? And this is a split understanding. So this is one of the biggest cover-up in archaeology and one of the biggest cover-up in history, because what I'm about to show you guys could really rewrite history. And the point of the matter is that they're denying it, they're hiding it, and they're ignoring it. Shout out to everybody in the building. If y'all ready to rock this thing on out, I do need the tribe and the family and the supporters to hit that like button, thumb up the video, support the channel. And let's get these likes up. Let's get y'all to share this at least 3 or 4 times. Let's get this likes up. And family, most importantly, let's get a few people to support the channel. I think it's very important that we get a few people to support the channel. This channel is not monetized, so I do want you guys to come in and rock the house on out. Salute to you guys. I do want to make sure I stop what I'm doing to take the time out to shout out the family that's in the building shouting me out. So let's get it in. All right, I'm gonna shout out some of the family that's in the building rocking out with us right now. So shout out to Pop Reeds, Roger W, Big Empress Namo, Truthful is in the building, Big Dog Philly OG, Lois Hub, Glass Moon, Smoke Dog, Yanetta Ya. It's always good to see my sister in here. Good to see you, sis. Who else we have in here? Family on Twitter. Y'all can easily get in the comment section if y'all listen. I do want to rock and shout y'all out if y'all listening in on Twitter. Make sure y'all give us a quick reshare. And like I said, family, let me step away to grab my drink, but this will give y'all enough time to hit that like button and, most importantly, to support the channel. We got some heat for y'all today. Don't even trip. So yeah. Shout out to everybody in the building. So y'all all locked in. Drop those fire emojis. Don't be the last one to support the channel. Always be the first one to support the channel. Make sure y'all follow me on all social media platforms. On Twitter, that's at Power Aboriginal. On Instagram, big_Aboriginal_power. And of course, y'all can find me on TikTok at Aboriginal Power as well. So what we're going to be talking about is a very, very important site. This particular deep dive is Hueyatlaco. I don't know if you ever heard of Hueyatlaco. We're going to get into that. I brought this up several different times, but I don't think the people or the family may even realize how significant this site is when we get into some of the archaeological understanding. So I'm not going to hold you guys up any farther. We're going to get straight into it. All right. So the discoveries made by Dr. J.D. Whitney, the chief government geologist of California, in his book, The Auriferous Gravels of the Sierra Nevada of California. All right. This particular book was published by Harvard University in 1880. Okay. But we do not hear very much about the discoveries today. Now, these are all scientific discoveries. These were founded. These were actual archaeological digs published by Harvard University, the University of California, the Chief Geological Survey, and the Journal of Scientific Evidence. All right. All these particular people went into the facts. Now, this particular discovery was reported in, like I said, 1880s. We're going to get into some modern reviews of this too, because they cannot push this away. Okay, so let's get into it. In the Smithsonian Institute annual report for 1898 and 1899, anthropologist William Holmes said, perhaps if Professor Whitney had fully appreciated the story of human evolution as it is understood today, he would have hesitated to announce the conclusions formulated, notwithstanding the imposing array of testimony with which he was confronted. So, in other words, if the facts did not fit the theory of human evolution, the facts had to be set aside. And this is exactly what happened at Hueyatlaco. We're going to get into that right now. All right. Such bias continue into the 17th century. All right. In 1970s, American archaeologists led by Cynthia Irwin Williams discovered stone tools at Hueyatlaco, right near Pueblos, Mexico. The stone tools were of the advanced type, all right, made only by humans like us, not like Neanderthals, not like other hominids, but exactly like us. A team of geologists from the United States Geological Survey, right, by the Geological Survey and the universities of the United States came to Hueyatlaco to date the site. Now, this is where things get interesting, family. I do need y'all to hit that like button. This is where things get interesting. Okay. If y'all in here with me, I do need y'all to drop those fire emojis, man. Let's get some support in here. So they went down to date these sites. Now, amongst the geologists was Virginia Steen McTree, right? We're gonna get into her in a second. Okay. To date the site, the team used 4 different methods, not just one, but 4 different dating methods. Now let's get into it. Uranium series dating on the butchered animal bones found along with the tools. Zircon Fission track dating on the volcanic layers above the tools. Tempera hydration dating of the volcanoes and the crystals in standard strategy that is performed during the cooling and fossilization. Now, those particular 4 methods covered an age about 250,000 years. Now, this is significant because this goes against any of mainstream history, because mainstream history has been very vocal about there was nobody in America prior to 13,000 years. I'm pretty sure you guys have heard that. That was a leading module in the early 1800s, the early 1900s, and going into the early 2000s, calling it Clovis First. Clovis First has obviously been debunked with the Topper site at North Carolina with archaeologist Dr. Al Goodyear. We also got the Richard Cerruti site, which is Tom Demaray and Richard Cerruti, with 130,000 years in California. We also got White Sands, New Mexico, which is also another site, which is, I believe, the archaeologist on that site was Dr. Whitney as well. So we're going to get into some more of these dating. Now, 250,000 years is the advanced tools dating. Now, archaeologists refuse to consider the date, right? They cannot believe that humans capable of making the Hueyatlaco site artifacts existed 250,000 years ago. Now, listen, this is the pushback that they were getting. Now, in defense of the dates obtained by the geologists, Virginia Steen McTree wrote in a letter March 30th, 1981 to Estella Leopold, associate editor with the quaternary research. Now listen, this is where it gets key. The problem, as I see, it is much bigger than Hueyatlaco. All right. It is concerns that manipulation of the scientific thought through the suppression of enigmatic data and data that challenge the prevailing mode of thinking. Hueyatlaco certainly does that. Not being an anthropologist, I didn't realize the full significance of our dates back in 1973. She was just doing her job and just giving the dates as she reads it. She didn't understand that it was a scientific stigma and outcast of anything going against the narrative. So like I said, in 1973, nor how deeply woven into the thoughts of current theory of human evolution has become, our work at Hueyatlaco has been rejected by most archaeologists because it contradicts the theory, period. This remains true today, not only for the California gold mine discoveries of Hueyatlaco human artifacts, but for hundreds of other discoveries documented in the scientific literature of the past 150 years. Now, what that is saying is that the scientific community have, without a shadow of a doubt, that they have documented archaeological evidence, historical literature, and other data pertaining to the presence of North American inhabitants being here longer than the 50,000 years that is alleged. Now, listen, in chapter 3, I present a case of fossil evidence showing that the current Darwinian picture of the evolution of non-human species is also in need of revision. Beginning in 1940s, geologists in the botanists working on the Geological Survey of India explored the Salt Range Mountain and what is now in Pakistan. So this is going into the whole archaeological studies. But one of the most crucial part is the Hueyatlaco site because it dates back at 250,000 years. 250,000 years. And what I'm going to tell you guys is that the module for the out of Africa theory only leads you to a certain template. It's only going to get you so far. It's only going to get you so far. And so human evolution is being debunked within the mainstream scientists. And what we're just proved is that this out of Africa theory is that all people, all melanated people that you see around the world obviously comes through a migration. A particular migration from out of Africa, and the entry date that they're giving the Africans to have left is roughly around 100,000 to 110,000 years. They're giving humans like us, the human like kind like us, have only been around for 300,000 years, and this is dirt. Now, this is where the theory gets challenging because the 300,000-year-old specimen that was found. That is human like us, found in Morocco, is only 300,000 years. All right, that means 300,000 years ago, 200,000 years ago, the modern day human hadn't even thought about migrating out of Africa yet. So what's significant about that is that Hueyatlaco dates even goes back even farther than the 250,000 years that's alleged. So we're going to get into another set of information dealing with the Hueyatlaco site. Make sure y'all hit that like button, thumb up the video, support the channel. It's your brother Big Aboriginal Power, and we got some more heat for y'all. If y'all ready to rock this thing on out, drop a fire emoji, thumb up the video, and let's go.
For the stats, I be beating the odds. In the blood, it be making me calm. Ride the turbines just like I'm Saddam. I'ma blow it just like I'm a bomb. I'ma leave it.
This testimony that I'm dropping here on the screen was left in the comments section of one of my most viral videos on this. It reads, I was a junior archaeologist on that dig. It was more than a cover up. We were arrested and run out of the country. All or almost all of our evidence was stolen, including break-ins at our offices and homes before we returned to the US. This is a true story that should not be forgotten. The discoveries that was coming out of Hueyatlaco could rewrite history. Some of the artifacts were dated to be so old that it challenges every single paradigm we have about the history of migrations to the Americas and really the age of humanity in the Americas itself. When did people come to the Americas? I was in Mexico several years ago when I first read about this, and I happened to be in the area and actually went and found some of these sites in a place near Puebla, Mexico. So some of the footage you're going to see in this video comes from me actually on scene, interviewing locals that actually remembered some of the archaeologists that we're going to talk about in this video. If I ever do venture into the realm of speculation, I'm going to let you know, but I'm really just sticking to the facts. I'm just going to tell you the story of what happened because it is documented. Let's get to it. I've been giving you way too much of a preface for the cover up at Hueyatlaco. So 1959 was a big year for archaeology. In that year in Africa, they found a hominid skull that was dated to over 2 million years. It was the biggest headline grabbing thing of the decade for archaeology. But that same year in a remote site in Mexico, Puebla, Mexico, a young amateur archaeologist named Juan Armento Camacho found a bone, a very fossilized old bone that appeared to have scratchings in it. And upon closer examination, it was actually artwork of a hunting scene. After consulting with some professional archaeologists and geologists, it was quickly revealed that this was done on something called green bone, which means it would have happened soon after the death. That means, since this was fossilized, that this was at least 10,000 years old. And that was a big deal at the time. And that's just at least 10,000 years old. At the time, the prevailing belief was that people didn't really get to the Americas until about 12,000 years ago. Clovis first was still the main.
And by the way, for those that's listening to this live stream and that's going to be listening to this in passing, you can look up at the top of the screen. We got a channel that a video I want y'all to check out. It is kind of in relation to this. You will be able to see it at the end of this live. Also, family, I do want y'all to thumb up the video and support the channel, fam. All right, let's go.
Age east. That's just at least 10,000 years old. At the time, the prevailing belief was that people didn't really get to the Americas until about 12,000 years ago. Clovis first was still the major idea of how people got to the Americas. And even then, it was, for whatever reason, it was still, they were still only saying 12,000.
Oh yeah, I want to state this for those that may be second guessing any of this data. I put all of my site sources in reference in all my citations that are referred and reference sources to this actual site. So if you guys want to double check the actual data and all of the citation reference sources, they're in the description box. Go check out all the sources. If you don't believe it yourself, go do your own research.
Years. We know now that's not true. People have been in the Americas for at least 22,000 years. And then what you're going to find out later in this video, possibly way longer. So this artifact, it was even displayed at the Smithsonian. It was in major magazine publications. They didn't exactly try to hide it right away. And then it vanished. And still to this day, nobody knows where this is. Fast forward to the 1960s, and there's a prestigious archaeologist that worked at the Denver Museum named Dr. Hannah Marie Wormington. And she took an interest in Hueyatlaco because it just kept finding more and more of these Ice Age bones, these animals that were beyond extinct. And she assigned a promising young archaeologist named Cynthia Irwin Williams to go down there and lead excavations at the site. The Smithsonian even came on board. The U.S. Geological Survey was involved. This was a huge effort, and people were really excited about what they were going to find. So the dig started to reveal stratified layers, pretty typical in archaeology. The layers below volcanic ash, which is important because you can get a date on volcanic ash, apparently. I'm not a geologist. That is what they were using to date these artifacts that we're going to talk about. So below the volcanic ash, they found finely sharpened tools, and this was all along the remains of some extinct animals. Then Cynthia started digging deeper. In a lower bed, bed I, that you'll see here on the screen right here, even older artifacts started to emerge. So now they just needed to date the ash. There was a geologist named Hal Malday that got involved that started doing the dating for the ash that was above these artifact layers. And the date came back to 22,000 years old. That was a big no-no. These days, it's not a big no-no. We know that people were here 22,000 years ago. But back then, that was a big no-no. Clovis first was the paradigm that everyone had to agree to. And if you didn't agree to it, there was a lot of drama coming.
This is in Pueblos, Mexico. This is on the border of Texas, and it's right close, I think 14 miles from Veracruz. All right. Yeah, I believe it's in Veracruz.
Your way. Little did they know that 22,000 years was going to be the least of their worries. Stick with me. I got to lay out the foundation for this before I can tell you about the actual cover-up. So that meant that the tools beneath that layer were even way older than that. That's just the ash above. And already this is way outside the lines of what was accepted. Word started leaking about this, and then all chaos breaks loose. Workers were arrested, artifacts confiscated, never seen again. And although many archaeologists did back her up, still, this was just a big drama that was hanging over her head for the rest of her career. All of her future plans at Hueyatlaco destroyed. Here's a clip from a documentary that's really hard to find online. I believe the name is Hueyatlaco, the archaeological enigma that changed history. Check this out.
The scientific authorities sent some men with pistols to try to scare the workers at the field. And there were about 60 workers, but 3 of them accepted that the fossils were planted. And only these 3 people who signed the paper and saying, yes, we planted, and the scientists planted the fossils. The other 50 and more workers never accepted. They were very honest.
This goes back to the logistics of planting. These sites were all very hard sediments. They were not dirt like you usually see archaeologists digging in your science films. This was almost like paleontology or geology in the sense that the material, if it wasn't rock, it was almost rock. They had to use picks and chisels rather than the trowel, which is the standard archaeological tool. Consider a sidewalk, and you're trying to tell an archaeologist, or you're trying to convince an archaeologist that something in that sidewalk has been planted. This means you got to break open that sidewalk and try and cover it up. And so that the archaeologist believes that what they're coming upon is something that hasn't seen the light of day for as long as it's been buried. Having worked down there last year and experienced the density and the hardness of the sediments, both the Mexican archaeologists and myself agreed there's just no way you could plant artifacts in this material and hope to get away with it.
So what they were saying is it's impossible that it was fake, forged, or anything else. So they're saying it's an actual legitimate archaeological site. Now, to get into some more of the data, which I'm going to come back to more of this audio video that I'm referring you to, but I do want to kind of get into some of the literature, and this is what we came here for. All right. Ethnographer Eric Bowman disputed the Carlos Armingo discovery, but also unintentionally helped confirm them in 1913. Carlos Emilio collected the Lorenzo Porodi found a stone implement in the Pliocene at the Mora Mora site. It was left in place. Bowman was one of the several scientists invented to the Mora site to witness the implements abstracted. After the implement, a boiler stone was photographed, and removed. Another discovery was made. At my direction, wrote Bowman, the party continued to attack the Baranica with a pick at the same point where the boulder stones were discovered, when suddenly and unexpected there appeared a second stone ball. Now listen, it was more like grinding stone than the boulder. The Bowman found yet the implements had been planted by the party. In any case, Bowman produced no evidence whatsoever that Parodi actually planted it. A longtime employee of the Buenos Aires Museum of the Natural History had ever behaved fraudulently. So they saying that's not something that his background or something that he has done in the past, right? It said these kinds of implements found at the Carlos Amigo Mara site, the arrowheads and the bolas, are usually considered the work of Homo sapiens sapiens. Taken at face value, the Moro heads found they're domesticated in the presence of anatomically modern correct people in South America over 3 million years ago. Now, this is what the actual data said. All right. And interestingly enough, in 1921, M.A. Vagnati discovered the late Pliocene the Chapomalayan, excuse me, I'm sorry if I'm butchering these words. The Chapomalayan formation at the Mara site, they found a fully human fossil jawbone fragment. And in the 1950s, Thomas E. Lee, the National Museum of Canada, found advanced stone tools in a glacier deposit at the Shenandoah particular area in Lake Huron. Now, listen, this is the part that I want to kind of skip down to because I believe this is going to go right back into our site. Now, listen. In 1970s, anthropologists undiscovered stone tools in the Hawaii and in the Hueyatlaco site in Mexico. Geologist Max Stern, geological officer, estimating the age about 250,000 years. Now, look, the standard picture of humans migrate was capable of making these tools in Hueyatlaco was not thought to have come into existence around 100,000 years ago. So they saying that the science data says that there was no way people was making these type of advanced tools 250,000 years ago, because in Africa they wasn't even making them 100,000 years ago. Now, Maxtrine experienced difficulty in getting her dating study at the Hueyatlaco published. The problem, as I see, is much larger than the Stella research and the Leopold. It concerns the manipulation of scientific through the suppression of Enigma. So we kind of got into that earlier. So that's a crucial part in this whole understanding dealing with the Mara site. Like, we can get into other advanced sites that go even deeper than this, that where the artifacts is astonishing, you know. So the artifacts that has been found has already been studied. Scientists has already proven it to be authentic artifacts, and the dating methods that was used, which are 4 separate dating methods, all conclusively pretty much came to the same date. So I believe that is crucial within itself. Let's get in here, man. Let's go.
Fast forward a decade in the 1970s, and things got even more interesting. Geologist Barney Szabo and Virginia Steen McIntyre returned with new dating methods. This time they're using uranium series dating. And the results, the ash above the layers of artifacts was now coming back between 250,000 and 800,000 years old. And that's a wide range, but at minimum, according to their dating methods, 250,000 years old. That's the layer above the artifacts. If that's true, that just changes everything. That changes more than what we know about the Americas. That changes what we know about the world, humanity. But that day, nah, that's completely unacceptable to the establishment. Virginia's funding was cut. She reported being harassed, and eventually she lost work over this, all for just reporting the data that came back. 3 decades later, in 2001, there was a geologist named Marshall Payne, and he decided to try a clever test. That way no one was going to get in trouble for just reporting the data. Check this out. He sent samples of the ash to 2 different independent experts using even newer dating methods. He sent them to Ray Donalick, who had the fission track dating, and then a guy named Ken Farley, who used uranium, thorium, helium dating. All of this was even new dating methods, and none of them knew exactly what this was for, and they also didn't know about each other's work. It was kind of like a blind.
This game, you're not ready for it.
Helium dating. All of this was even new dating methods, and none of them knew exactly what this was for, and they also didn't know about each other's work. It was kind of like a blind test. No one was going to get in trouble for this. And the results came back. The fission track dating came back to 250,000 years. The uranium, thorium, helium dating, 400,000 to 500,000 years. Pretty wide ranges there, but the point is very, very, very old. Years later, another dig would happen and two critical questions would be sparked. Were beds C and E actually older than the Hueyatlaco ash? Or could their position and the artifacts within them be explained by flooding and erosion? The second question revolves around bed I. Nobody disputed that bed I was indeed older than the Hueyatlaco ash. The only real question was, did Cynthia make a mistake with bed I? Let's do a deep dive into those two questions. Stick with me because this part's going to get real technical, but it's critical for understanding the entire debate around Hueyatlaco. And if you wait to the end, there's going to be a curveball. Michael Waters, a well-respected geoarchaeologist and director of the Center of the First Americans, was skeptical. He proposed that beds C and E were younger than the Hueyatlaco ash. Maybe their positioning could be explained by erosion or flooding.
I need y'all to hit that like button real quick. I need y'all to smack that like button real quick. Let's get a few of the family to smack that like button real quick. Let's get a few of the family members to smack that like button real quick. Can we get that? Let's get a few people to support. We'll be right back in just a second. Make sure y'all hit that like button, thumb up the video. And like I said, family, support the channel. We'll be right back in just a second. All right, we should be back in live to go. See, we got a few more likes in the building. All right, let's get this back on the screen.
Than the Hueyatlaco ash. The only real question was, did Cynthia make a mistake with bed I? Let's do a deep dive into those two questions. Stick with me because this part's going to get real technical, but it's critical for understanding the entire debate around Hueyatlaco. And if you wait to the end, there's going to be a curveball. Michael Waters, a well-respected geoarchaeologist and director of the Center of the First Americans, was skeptical. He proposed that beds C and E were younger than the Hueyatlaco ash. Maybe their positioning could be explained by erosion or flooding. Halmalde, one of the original geologists on site, disagreed with him. And the two engaged in a very scholarly and respectful debate. Before we get into that, I just want to say that Michael Waters was doing his job. This is how actual science works. There's nothing wrong with being skeptical of these incredible claims of humans being in the Americas for 250,000 years. He's not a part of the cover-up that I was talking about, where the literal men with guns that showed up to the site. That is not how science works. So decades later, Michael Waters comes along and offers his critique to this. There was a geologist named Bob McKinney that had worked for a lot of gas and oil companies, and he got involved in this. He analyzed sections of the site to determine whether erosion might explain how the artifacts ended up where they were. Here's a short clip from Bob right here, and then we're going to get into the debate between Halmalde and Michael Waters.
We have traced that zone from underneath the overlying tuff bed, which is a very good identifying marker, all the way back around the front of the area that's being benched right now, up to a trench that goes back underneath it.
I don't know what's going on with the video. Let's see. Oh, I think I know.
Of the area that's being benched right now, up to a trench that goes back underneath it, and we followed this bed the entire way, and it is not interrupted, not incised by anything. Therefore, the strata that contain the bifacial tools and together with the bones has not been disturbed at all. The important point here is that the section that we examine is the section in which the fossils were found. It was not eroded. It was not redeposited. Those samples are right. Those tools and everything else are right where they start.
No offense, but if you're paying more than $30 a month on car insurance, you're getting ripped off. Everybody knows.
Push back dealing with the tools and the artifacts that were found in a deposit area that was due to flooding. So let's get into this full argument, by the way. Hit that like button, thumb up the video. You already know the vibes. Hit that like button. Let's go.
The strata that contain the bifacial tools and together with the bones has not been disturbed at all. The important point here is that the section that we examine is the section in which the fossils were found. It was not eroded. It was not redeposited. Those samples are right. Those tools and everything else are right where they started.
So Michael Waters believed that he had evidence that contradicted this. And I'm going to show you a clip right now of him explaining why beds C and E actually might be under the ash due to flooding. Remember, this has nothing to do with bed I yet. Everyone agrees bed I is definitely older than the Hueyatlaco ash. We're going to get to that in a moment. Full disclaimer, I'm making some cuts here for the sake of time. This is like a 30-minute debate between Michael Waters and Hal Malday. I'm linking the full documentary that's just uploaded to YouTube. It's kind of uploaded in low quality, but it is good. And I encourage everybody to go watch it, including the full debate. But I'm going to try to highlight some of the main points in some clips.
So what we did is we excavated a trench, my Mexican colleagues and myself, which would expose this area right in here, which would be one wall of Cynthia Irwin Williams's excavations. And then in addition to that, we excavated another trench going this direction to find, again, the other side wall of our excavations. And we did find the end of our excavations, which had been taking place out in this region right here. And then we extended that trench up the hill to where it intersected and came into contact with the Hueyatlaco ash. This way, we could then examine the layering, which we call stratigraphy, from the Hueyatlaco ash all the way down through the profile in this trench and out into Cynthia's excavation area. You know, this is just a better photograph of this, showing the structure that's in that, you know, floodplain vertisol, but you can clearly see the erosional contact coming up like this. And geologically, you have to evaluate this to determine whether you have an erosional contact there separating them, meaning this is older and this is younger, or is there some sort of relationship here where this is grading into that? And as I say, in 73, they thought this was grading into that, but I think you can very clearly see in this photo that this is a very sharp contact with clay on this side and sands on that side.
This is a photograph made by Roald Fixell in 1973. Mike Waters, in an interview that he gave a couple of years ago, discussed what he calls a drying phenomenon. He would draw the unconformity from this contact and he would take it up to the ground surface. That's the way he kind of pointed it out in his interview on video. Waters looks at this contact here at the base of the channel and extends it up into thin air and makes it unconformable against the higher deposits, including the Hueyatlaco ash and the higher units. These channel deposits, 2 meters thick, were topped out or capped out by subsequent material which accumulated first on the stream bank here as in an area which I call a levee, and which spilled to the south as finer and finer material in a floodplain, which makes the levee and the floodplain continuous as the latest member of the channel fill here.
So y'all hear what's going on,
places right? All of this material below the Hueyatlaco ash.
Now's where things get interesting. Clearly, there's a debate about beds C and E.
Right, and this is where things get real interesting. And obviously, like he said, there's a debate between E and C. There is no debate about I and the artifacts found in area that's labeled I. Okay. So we're gonna get into some more heat, man. Drop those fire emojis, thumb up the video, support the channel. We ain't going nowhere, but I do need y'all to hit that like button real quick. We're gonna play a little music and we'll be right back in just a second. Hit that like button, thumb up the video, support the channel. Let's go. All right. I feel like we heard enough, so let's get back into it. Everybody hit that like button, thumb up the video, support the channel.
Which makes the levee and the floodplain continuous as the latest member of the channel fill here, and also places all of this material below the Hueyatlaco ash.
Now's where things get interesting. Clearly, there's a debate about beds C and E here, and whether flooding and erosion can explain why they're under the Hueyatlaco ash, why the artifacts ended up under the Hueyatlaco ash. Well, to help settle it, a new dating method was introduced, diatom analysis. This is a very unusual dating method, and it studies diatoms, these tiny
Now, this is the dating method that I did not specify while reading the literature, but this is the dating method that came later. So the 4 dating methods that I named earlier in this breakdown were done in 1989, and then later on in the 1990s. This particular dating came in 2001, if I'm not mistaken. I also want to give a special shout out and say thank you to the only supporter that supported the channel today, my brother Roger W. I want to say salute to Roger W. Shout out to everybody else in the building. Make sure y'all show Roger W some love, and don't let Roger W be the only one to support these type of live streams, family. You know, we want to make sure we're putting out fire info
with glass-like shells, and when they die, their shells sink and become trapped in sediment layers. And different diatom species have lived during different times. So you can find the remains of extinct diatom and get a pretty good idea of the age. And what they found in this study that I'm about to show you in another clip even puzzled the skeptics.
An artifact is dropped on the ground near the edge of a stream. The water level rises, surrounding the artifact with living diatoms. When the diatoms die, they sink to the bottom and become part of the sediment. Over time, the sediment builds and covers the artifact. This process is repeated and new beds are formed, each containing unique communities of diatoms. Long after the water has receded, geologists can determine the age of the various strata by analyzing the diatoms which are present.
Sam has dated the layer that we find the artifacts in with diatoms.
To get a good date based on diatoms, the person who studies algae or microorganisms would need to find several of these microorganisms in the sediments.
Okay, so what that means is that in the identification process, you are able to relate that to the age of the sediment that you find them in. You're saying that the diatoms that you ended up testing were taken from the exact place that the artifacts were found.
Right, that's correct. Yeah, no question. That would indicate to me that the artifacts found at the Hueyatlaco archaeological site are over 80,000 years old. Yeah.
The biggest question that needs to be resolved as well is this, the diatom evidence.
Yeah.
Because Sam Van Landingham, who I've never met, has examined the
what we're dating. Listen, even if the dating at the bare minimum dating is at 80,000 years, why are they not saying the presence in America is at least 80,000 years? Because even with the 80,000 year dating, they still challenge the out of Africa module. How do you figure? Because Africans didn't make it to Asia until 130,000 years. They didn't make it to Europe until 140,000 years, and they didn't make it to Australia until 70,000 years. And if they made it only to Australia at 70,000, how could these particular out of Africa migrants make it to America at 80? I mean, they skipped past Australia only to come to America, but then double back to Australia?
searches from, below the unconformity and also above the unconformity, and he finds no difference between the diatoms here and the diatoms over here.
So according to the diatom science, the diatoms found in bed C and E were at least 80,000 years old. At least. That's just when they went extinct. Could be possibly way older. So now you have the dating of the Hueyatlaco ash with 3 different dating methods showing 100,000, 250,000 plus years old. And then the sugar on top is the diatom science. As for bed I, no one disputes that this is older than the Hueyatlaco ash. But did Cynthia make a mistake? Remember, bed I is completely separate from bed C and E. If a mistake was made by Cynthia Irwin Williams in bed I, you still have to explain the diatom that we just heard about, the 80,000 at minimum date of these diatoms that had been died out for 80,000 years that were found in beds E and C where the artifacts were found. To summarize the argument between Michael Waters and Hal Malday on whether a mistake was made in bed I by Cynthia Irwin Williams, basically Michael, after reviewing some of her notes, noticed that there might have been some sloppy work at some times. You'd see different beds were crossed out and replaced with another one. And his main reason, other than kind of the sloppy work in there as to why there had to have been a mistake made, is that these are just too old. This doesn't make sense. Artifacts, 250,000 years minimum. Hal Malday defended Cynthia Irwin Williams and basically said from the beginning to the very end, Cynthia always maintained that she did find artifacts in bed I. When I went down there, I wanted to talk to some of the locals. They remembered Cynthia. They called her La Gringa, which is like the white person from America, the white lady from America. They also told me that they still find bones on their shores near their properties. When the lake water lowers, oftentimes bones are sticking out of the sediment. But I also went on a little adventure looking for these supposed footprints. And I will say this is the part that's completely speculative. I'm not convinced by this, but
My bad, y'all. 2 seconds. Yeah, they did me. Let's get
on
back
their
to it.
shores near their properties. When the lake water lowers, oftentimes bones are sticking out of the sediment. But I also went on a little adventure looking for these supposed footprints. And I will say this is the part that's completely speculative. I'm not convinced.
Y'all don't like them commercials. Y'all support the channel. We'll get that premium today.
In 2005, archaeologist Sylvia Gonzalez announced possible human footprints in the Xylena Tuff near Puebla, Mexico. If that was true, that'd be staggering because the Xylena Tuff is over 1 million years old. And using Google Earth and a little bit of internet sleuthing, I did find the supposed footprints. And I took these photos here. There was some follow-up to this, and a lot of people believe that this was done from mining.
Now, look,
and that
they
this was
that
pick
these
marks
are footprints that was made during the softening and the hardening of this granite. And they estimate this to have formulated around 1 million years ago. So if this was cooling and this was being formed and a human was there, they say only a human could did this, but now they're giving other explanations.
Is over 1 million years old. And
so all the footprints that you see down there in Peru and Pueblos, Mexico, the oldest spot, because like I said, according to geological surveys, this area is at least 1 million years old.
Announced possible human footprints in the Xylena Tuff near Puebla, Mexico. If that was true, that'd be staggering because the Xylena Tuff is over 1 million years old. And using Google Earth and a little bit of internet sleuthing, I did find the supposed footprints. And I took these photos here. There was some follow-up to this, and a lot of people believe that this was done from mining and that this was pick marks from modern quarrying. So it could just be a misidentification. But at one point, and some of these photos are interesting, at one point, people were thinking these were footprints. This isn't the only site in the Americas that exceeds some of the accepted dates. In Brazil, there's rock art. This is at Serra de Capoeira National Park. I really want to go there. It's on my list. Also in San Diego in 1992, archaeologists discovered a mastodon bone that had been broken in a way which seemed to indicate that someone was extracting marrow from it. This became...
So this is the site that I referred to earlier, the California site that's in San Diego, better known as the Cerruti site. The guy who found it back in the early 80s by the name of Richard Cerruti. Obviously, the site has passed on to a guy by the name of Tom Demeray, who happens to be the leading archaeologist over there. And like I said, this is not even an argument whether or not humans were doing it. They're just trying to say what type of humans, and now there's a whole debate sparking off about this presence in America at 130,000 years, because like I said, 130,000 years blows the out of Africa theory out the water. That means that they hadn't even made it to Europe yet, but they're already in America. Then, of course, with the Hueyatlaco site going back 250,000 years, which is almost twice the length that they allege people first migrated out of Africa. So if people hadn't even migrated out of Africa yet, who are these advanced people that are already in the Americas? It makes you wonder and question what history has not told us.
Controversial because it was dated to 130,000 years old. And then one of the most recently accepted finds is the 22,000-year-old footprints at White Sands, New Mexico. As for Hueyatlaco, the only way to find out what happened there.
I also brought up White Sands, New Mexico earlier. I brought this up for the last 4 or 5 years. A lot of people don't want to even have these type of archaeological conversations and geological conversations with us because they can't call it pseudo based off of the respected and credible and accurate dating methods that are being used, not just one, but multiple dating methods. And they're all conclusively coming up with roughly around the same general number in age and dating.
There is another independent excavation. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be that much interest in going back there. Of course, this takes a lot of time, money, effort, people, but pretty big discovery. You think that funding would be lined?
I think it's a huge discovery. I think it's absolutely marveling, and I think that history and mainstream archaeology and has to can't ignore this. This has been this has almost been put on the back burners and constantly ignored somewhat for the last at least 100 years. You see what I'm saying? But it seems like it keep popping up in the conversation about archaeology in the Americas. And I believe it's something that we're going to have to look deeper into and eventually just respect the dating that is coming from the most respected geological scientists and geological surveys and geoarchaeologists in the Americas. You know what I'm saying? I believe it's the most crucial aspect to it. But just dealing with 250,000 years, this is just a drop in a bucket of water when it comes to the archaeological history that has been totally ignored, set aside because it doesn't fit the mainstream narrative, even though the actual data says that it's correct, even though the actual data says it's correct. For instance, we can get into like I said, we brought up the Chapamalana site and the Moore site. You feel me? I can bring up other sites like the California and site. I can bring up the Granville skull that was found in California as well. I can pull up multiple different things that suggest that humans were in America long before this 20,000 years. As a matter of fact, family, what would I be without showing you guys some actual facts, family? Y'all know how we do it over here, so let's get into it. Now, this is from 100% Human Knowledge. In 1871, William E. Du Bois of the Smithsonian Institute reported on several human artifacts that were found in levels of Illinois. The first object was a copper coin, all right, from the Long Ridge of Marshall County in Illinois. It came from a well boring at depths of 114 feet in Winchell, 1881, on page 170, using the drill record. The Illinois State Geological Survey estimate that the age of the deposit at the 114-foot level depth, the deposit was formed during the Urmothian interglacial period. Now, that period is sometime between 200,000 and 400,000 years. Here go another source yet saying that advanced humans were in America at that 200 to 400,000 marker. Let's go. The coin suggests that there was a civilization at least 200,000 years in North America, family. This is what the Geological Survey has said, not Aboriginal power, family. So this is why we bring out these particular sources. We're challenging mainstream scientists. We know McGraw-Hill Books is owned by Blackwater. We know Blackwater is funded by the Carnegie's, J.P. Morgan, and the Rockefellers. The Rockefellers is tied to a whole bunch of other stuff, and we just know that these people has been lying and using historical racism and lies, and now they're using scientific racism and lies. But a lot of this data is coming from before they was able to really put a grasp on this whole science. So now look, it said people was in America at least 200,000 years. Now say, yet beings intelligent enough to make use of coins are generally not thought to have lived much earlier than 100,000 years ago. According to standard views, metal coins were first used in Asia Minor during the 18th century. A small skull. Let's get into some more since we're here. Drop a fire emoji in the chat. All right, drop a fire emoji in the chat if you enjoy these type of bills. Like I said, all the sources and references that you're viewing and hearing and looking at today are all located in the description box. Okay. All right. A small image, skillful formed from clay, so a figurine, was found in 1889 in Nepal, Idaho. All right. The figurine came from a 300-foot level of a depth and found inside of a well. Responding to inquiries by my research assistant in the United States Geological Survey states in the letter that the clay layer at the depth over 300 years, probably the Glens Ferry Formation in Upper Idaho group, which is generally considered the Pliocene era, which is the boundary between the Pliocene and the Pliocene, lies at 2 million years old. Now, this is what it's saying. Other than Homo sapiens sapiens, no other hominid, is known to have fashioned, create, build works of art like the Nepal figurine. The evidence, therefore, suggests that humans of the modern type were living in America 2 million years ago. And this is according to mainstream science at the time. We're talking about according to the Geological Surveys, family. So with that being said, I'm not going to cook too much, but I hope you guys enjoy this. If you look up right here on the screen, you should see a couple of videos that you will probably be interested with. You know what I'm saying? Check out this video right here on your left and check out the one right here on your right. And with that being said, it's your brother Aboriginal Power. Y'all be safe, be aware, stay vigilant, stay dangerous. Keys on the track, on the track, on the track, on the track, on the track.
For the stats, I be beating the odds. In the blood, it be making me calm. Ride the turbines just like I'm Saddam. I'ma blow it just like I'm a bomb. I'ma leave it.